Kia ora, ngā mihi nui mo te tau hau. Happy New Year, first meeting for the new year of this committee. I declare this meeting of the Wastewater Treatment Plant and Landfill Joint Committee open. Members are reminded that this meeting is being live streamed. Hello everybody. And please use your microphones. So I will invite members now to give our karakia, which is up on the screen. Toru, wha. Whakatakata hau ki te uru. Whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta. Kia mā tātara ki tai. E hi ake ana, te ata kura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Kia ora, everybody. Apologies. No apologies have been received.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Can I ask what the filming is going on?
So a group approached me to film me as part of a Councillor of a Day. This is Voices of Aroha. I'm sure that they will release the footage of me and what I do during the day, including eating breakfast in due course. Soon to be infamous, I'm sure. With that, we'll move to public forum. There are two requests to speak, one from Mari Wright for 5 minutes and the other for Graham Ebbett, again for 5 minutes. Each speaker has the 5 minutes, including questions. A bell will be rung at the 4-minute mark and again at the 5-minute mark. Members can ask questions of clarification only and cannot enter into debate with speakers. Speakers should take note of the restrictions in the standing orders, including that matters which are subject to separate hearing processes must not be discussed, and that a speaker cannot speak on an issue they have previously spoken about. With that in mind, I'm going to call Mari Wright to come up to speak in public forum. Kia ora, Mari.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mari Wright and I live at 5 Toms Road, Titahi Bay. I am here today to inquire about an update to the proposed White House Road sewer pipes renewal plan. 1, has there been an update? And 2, I would like to see any new plans which would go down Toms Road to the beachfront and along the paper road at 7 Toms Road to join up with the existing sewer pipe outside 4 Bothamley Lane and out to the Rukatane Point pump station. My 7th of November presentation included a map of the proposed new pipeline to keep the pipes on the council land and not on ratepayers' land. And that was enclosed last time. And here is a map that I was given on September the 23rd of the project update background. Thank you.
Is that, have you finished yours?
Yes, I'm
okay,
finished,
sorry, I'll
thank
just
you.
open up for questions. Porirua Kelly.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just for you, a question to Mari. At our last meeting, the last hui that we had, we talked about the difficulties it would be for council to get agreement doing the new pipe work going through residents' property. And if I remember correctly, what was going to happen is that the officers were going to go back and have a conversation with the residents that would be involved. Did that happen?
No, haven't heard a word.
Nothing since our last hui?
No, since the 7th of November.
Okay, thank you. It'd be good to...
I'm sure that will come up when we get to the item for the wastewater treatment plant. Any other questions for Mari? Mari, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I welcome Graham Ebbett to come forward to speak in public forum for 5 minutes. Kia ora, Graham.
So that's working, is it? Yeah. Oh, Mr Chair and members of the committee. So my name's Graham Ebbett. I'm the Titahi Bay Residents Association Chairman. I've been in business for 50 years and that's involved setting up companies, trusts and incorporated societies. We made an official information request RE, the Titai Bay South Beach main sewer, it seemed to be a straightforward request to Porirua City Council, but it's been a struggle to verify the legal position. Our request is delayed with its transfer to Wellington Water under the Local Government Official Information Meeting Act on the grounds that it is a council-controlled organisation, but it's not clear in the Constitution of Wellington Water that it is a council-controlled organisation. The Constitution of Wellington Water lacks a clearly stated objective as a council-controlled organisation to carry out local government activities and functions. The comparison is with Watercare in Auckland, its constitution where it's clearly stated in the objectives, section 3.3 in the attachment A. You can see it marked with the asterisks. The only indication that it is a CCO in its constitution is section 17.1 auditor, and I quote, "So long as the company remains a council-controlled organisation, the Auditor General shall whatever it is." And that serves only to cast further doubt on the objectives as a CCO. We've received part of a non-public shareholder side agreement with a statement that it is a CCO, and that appears to be the only straightforward commitment to it being so. And surely that would not be necessary if it was properly stated in the Wellington Water Constitution. Having verified that Wellington Water is a CCO, we note the reporting requirements of Porirua City Council as a shareholder under the Local Government Act, and that's attachment B, and you can see marked with asterisks. They require the council as a shareholder to routinely publish the Wellington Water statements of intent and annual reports on a website. I've been unable to access anything on the Porirua City Council website and have received no reply to a request for a link. And as a result of our findings, our request to the committee is, number one, that the Porirua City Council CEO be urged to set up the required Local Government Act website system of reports and backdate them for the past 7 years. And number two, that it be recommended to Council that it seeks Wellington Water to follow the Auckland Watercare Constitution model of stating it as a council-controlled organisation as a principal objective in order to clarify its status for public accountability under the Local Government Act. And that these matters be resolved before consideration of Wellington Water being allowed to tax users with water meters. Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Bowie Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mr Chair, through you. Two questions. The first one is, who told you that Wellington Water was a council-controlled organisation?
We've just seen an extract of an agreement, a side agreement, but otherwise we've...
Was it from a council officer?
It's from the mayor.
Because Wellington Water isn't a council-controlled organisation, but it is something that the region is pushing for because it will give us more visibility over what's happening. So which mayor told you it was a council-controlled organisation?
It's stated in the agreement. There's an extract from the agreement that I received which clarified the matter. In the roundabout way of confirming it, the Wellington Water Constitution has a, I can't remember whether it's a interpretation or I can't remember what the wording is, but it's basically the attachment that gives definitions, and it defines
Maybe we'll get some officer comment. It
gives the definition of a council-controlled organisation as being what's referred to in the Local Government Act, and that has a definition which says basically that.
Yeah, except that my understanding is it's not a council control.
Can I just finish what I was saying?
I'm going to allow Graham to finish what he's going to say, and I'm also mindful that I just heard the second bell, did I not? So with regards to clarifications and so forth, we do still have on agenda the plant report, which I think we'll ask officers then to give some form of a response to the queries raised in the forum. But please continue. Finish your thought.
Just to say that in the Local Government Act, the definition of a council-controlled organisation is 50% or more of voting, shareholders voting. So
I'm just trying to understand what you're here for today, what you're actually asking of council.
Or just those three things at the bottom, really. What's come out of it, what we've found is that the whole problem really needs to be resolved, that there needs to be a clear statement in the objective that it is going to be a council-controlled organisation.
Going to be, we're hoping, but I mean, it's not, so
Yeah, no, it's not,
things
so-
are moot.
I'm mindful that public forum is typically an opportunity for the public to come forward. As elected members, our job is not to debate with the individual members of the public at this point. However, we do have the opportunity of querying officers in regards to the questions being raised in order to provide accountability to the public who have come here at their own cost to speak on these issues. With that, Graham, thank you very much for coming in, and that will be the end of public forum for today's meeting.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. Notification of extraordinary business. There are no items of extraordinary business. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I've got one step too far. I call for any conflicts of interest that need to be declared. Are there any conflicts of interest? There are none. Now we're back on schedule. Confirmation of minutes. We are asked to confirm the minutes of the first meeting of the Joint Committee held on the 7th of November 2023. I move that we confirm the minutes as a true and accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? Carried. Reports. 7.1, Joint Committee Wastewater Treatment Plant Report, October to December 2023. I'll move the motion. Do I have a seconder? I'll take, sorry, Councillor Duncan. I'm going to open for comment from David Down, but I'm also just want to remind officers that we have had in the public forum queries as well. So at the appropriate time, I'd like to ask whether it's Mike or somebody else for the officers to actually speak to that as well. David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't add anything to my cover report. We have Jeremy McKibben and officers from Wellington Water here to speak to the Wellington Water report, so okay. I'll turn over to them.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in once again and being part of this meeting. Again, I appreciate the effort that's been made to be here in person. Mike, did you want to speak before I pass over to Wellington Water with regards to the public forum query? With regards to the role of the Wellington Water.
Sure. If it's helpful, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I can explain. So Wellington Water Limited currently is a CCO and is also a company. But you're quite right, Porirua, Liz Kelly, where we wanted to go is to be a CCO with balance sheet separation. So it's a fundamental difference than the model that we have at the moment. I think it was probably me that signed out the OIA to you, Mr. Ebbett, and I'm happy to kind of connect with you. I have to be honest, some of the background documentation around Wellington Water's constitution can be a bit hard to find, but it's actually on the Hutt City Council's website. Hutt City Council hosts, on behalf of the 6 shareholding councils, all of the documentation from the Wellington Water Committee. So I'm happy to share with you directly, if you like, a link to those documents so that you can see them. They're also on the Wellington Water Limited website, certainly in terms of the statement of intent. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'll allow it, but I'm just also mindful that...
I just wanted clarity on what you've just said. So Wellington Water is not a CCO. They are a company, but the region is looking for them to be a CCO as we know it, so that the councils can have full visibility and a bit more transparency about what's going on, and also with regard to the balance sheets. Is that correct?
Not quite. So as it stands, Wellington Water Limited is both a company and a CCO. It is both, and it's in its constitution. The model that you're talking about for the future is, and it's still just discussion at this point, is around a CCO, but with the important difference that it would have balance sheet separation.
Yeah.
So that's still very much up in the air. The government just made an announcement today about the timeframes for that sort of stuff, but we're not yet in a position to provide you with advice on exactly what that might look like. But the intent of what you said is aligned with work that officers are currently doing on the way forward for water.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open to Jeremy, Blair and Steve. Thank you again. Please, if you would give us an opportunity to speak to the report.
Thank you. With regard to White House Road, the options have not yet been looked at in terms of the alignment. That will be undertaken in future, but as noted in the report, as of December, the project was put on slow due to uncertainty on funding. So that's currently the status. There was a second question which we came up in the last meeting, which we didn't address in the report, regarding Rukatane Point Pump Station upgrade cost. So I've checked back, and the estimated cost to upgrade that we prepared as part of a growth planning study for Western Porirua was $6.4 million. That was estimated cost, and that was. I understand that's not currently part of the 10-year proposed LTP. It's in outer beyond that, so that's the status of that particular pump station upgrade, as I understand it. No further comments. But
Okay, well, I'm going to open up for questions. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. The generator on page 13 we're talking about, is that one we just had in cold store or something? Is it? Or why was that not thought of originally to actually put it in there anyway?
that was the original generator from the treatment plant. So it hasn't run very many hours. It had been stored in a container on site. So they're assessing it for its suitability for reuse down at the UV.
Poe Kelly. Okay, Representative Allen.
Just a quick question on page 12. I note this time there were 8 odour complaints for the reporting period. Are the odour complaints increasing? I seem to remember there used to be none.
We have had, I would say, anecdotally, we've had an increase. There's only really, the complaints come from the Pukererie farm area, and there's only 2 residents up there, and we work pretty closely with the 2 residents up there and monitoring the odour from the plant. So with the new consent in play, we've got new odour conditions, which we're operating the plant to. So when certain weather conditions apply, the inlet tunnel fan shuts down. And we've got monitoring devices up there at the moment as well, just assessing what the impact of the new consent is. So we work pretty closely with the residents. They tend not to complain when there's odour, so we don't get an opportunity to assess it. They tend to complain once they've built up a number, which we've talked to them about as well. But yeah, so we've put some monitoring devices up there in place to get a sort of more factual assessment of what odour might be occurring up there.
Carry on.
What sort of monitoring devices? What are you monitoring for?
For hydrogen sulfide, H2S.
And what are they showing?
Haven't got. It's just recently gone in, so we haven't got the results yet.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go to Poe Kelly, I just want to follow up on that last bit. Can we have some time frame as to when this committee would receive some sort of data? Will it be the next report?
We can certainly provide data at the next report if you'd like us to. Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of being able to be forthright with the public, again, because of the relative infrequency of these meetings, it would be important to use this as an opportunity to disclose that information. Poe Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to talk to item 27 and the White House sewer renewal, and really just to understand what exactly is happening there. So you've just told us that it's gone on slow, pause even. And I'm assuming it's paused because what we were told at the last meeting was that you guys were going to go and talk to the residents about the options that were available to them. So you said that it's funding. Is that Wellington Water priority funding priorities? Like who made that decision?
Yeah. I'm actually going to ask Mike on behalf of the council in terms of the funding side of things, if that would be appropriate.
Yep.
Mike?
Kia ora, Porirua, Liz. This comes back to some decisions we had to take last December around our capital program, which we had to reduce from about 180 million down to 70 million. And so we determined, working with Wellington Water Limited, that this might be a project where we could get a little bit more life out of the assets, and we deferred this one in order to get within our covenants around debt last December.
Okay, thank you. So I get that, where councils are having to juggle everything and reprioritise. I guess for me, though, this is the third time that White House Road has been in our papers. And the first one was a surprise to us who live in the Bay that there was even this renewal work, and we wanted to know even where the pipes were. Then we were told that it needed to happen, and it needed to happen quickly, and the best way to do it was to go across residents' property. Now we're being told that it's not as bad as we initially thought. It probably still is, but we can't afford it, if I'm being honest with you. But if that's the case, what I would like of officers is if there could be some communication with the residents around what is now being proposed, and if there could be some sort of assurance that's given to the residents, because I know that it upset a lot of them who thought that pipes were going to their backyards and that were going to be dug up, and these pipes were going to then come through. So if the council officers could do some sort of comms to these residents that were involved, and we had quite a big group who came to public participation, just to alleviate their concerns and to give them a better understanding of what's going on in council. Because I think, like we're all going through trying to juggle our books, but it would just make it a lot easier if the people who are concerned were given some level of confidence that it's not going to happen tomorrow, it mightn't even happen at all. That would be good, but just some sort of comms to them, if that's possible.
Please, that's it.
Kia ora, certainly we'll work with Wellington Water to make sure that the residents are apprised of what the latest is. Decisions won't actually be made until the LDP is out the door, but I don't think that precludes us from having some decent conversations with the community in the meantime. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, because I would suggest to you that that's actually why we've got public participation on this now, because they haven't heard anything, and they were told at our last meeting that you guys were going to be in touch with them. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, I'll go to Councillor Field and Councillor Duncan.
Just following on from the last comment around point 27, and given that, as it's already been mentioned, it's come across our papers quite a number of times. I'd even say I feel like more than 3. My question is, how did you sort of work out then that this is an asset that could last a bit longer? Like, what I'd like to know a bit more around the workings out for that.
Okay, the main tool we use for that is a closed circuit TV, a little camera, and so it's been inspected several times over the years. There's also been some monitoring of the settlement in one area where the ground is soft, which after some analysis has been confirmed to be stabilising. So it's not continuing to settle. So as we say in the report, ideally we would get in and renew this asset, but it is one which we can get some more life out of with.
Okay, so on looking at it further, it's not as urgent. It's not as bad as you initially thought.
Yes, but it won't get better.
Yeah.
So it'll need replacing in the medium term.
Okay. With regards to Rokotane Point and the pump stations, I noticed that there was no discharges. Is that mainly because it hasn't really rained? Is it usually wet weather discharges that?
Yes, exactly. It only gets overloaded during wet weather.
Has there ever been dry discharge from the pump stations?
Not that I can recall. There's generally a duty, a standby pump to say pumps block, which is something which we deal with by having more than one pump. I can't recall, to my knowledge, a dry discharge from that site.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick clarity question on that last line of questioning? Have there not been discharge events that aren't related to wet weather, for instance, when there is a power cut? Would we not classify that as a non-wet weather based discharge?
There may have been, but there's several hours of storage during dry weather in what we call the wet well, the chamber in those pump stations, which is generally around about 4 hours, which generally gives the operators sufficient time to come and either plug in a generator or for the network to resume.
Sorry, I got a few.
Okay, carry on.
We've all seen all the Wellington pipes work just on the main road, so I can see there's lots of work being done. What roughly, if you can recall, was the budget for the White House Road sewer renewal? Do you recall that?
I can't recall those figures.
Is it possible for that to be furnished to the committee? I would like that to be done before the next meeting, well before the next meeting. It seems it's relatively straightforward.
And I think too, given that Wellington City Council would also be contributing to that, was that taken into account as well? That would be getting additional help with the funding for that particular? No?
David?
Yeah, just for clarity there, so Wellington City Council's contribution comes by way of its paying for the wastewater that comes into the city through the wall place meter. So the capital program is held by Porirua City and not contributed directly project by Wellington City.
So did you just say then, did I understand it right, that Wellington don't contribute to capital costs?
Wellington City Council pay a charge through the meter for all the wastewater that comes across the district boundary.
Yeah.
That charge then pays for the operating of the networks, and it also pays for a contribution towards the capital program for the joint venture assets as well.
So things like the wastewater storage tank, they'll be contributing towards that, and you work it out? No?
Not directly, no.
But so indirectly via the metering that you were just speaking about. And is that substantial or how?
I don't know off the top of my head what the actual share is or the amount, but we can get that to the committee as well.
I would think in the light of, and I think this is where the thrust of your question is coming from, Councillor Filo, is that in the light of the LTP being the share, it would be good for councillors to have some bearing of how the contribution of the funding from Wellington Water and how that ends up in terms of CapEx and their contribution towards it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Filo, were there other questions?
I did have one.
Go ahead.
More. So point 24, just about the Tangere Drive wastewater pump station. I thought at the last meeting we were told that this was completed. So can I get some clarity, please?
It has been a very long, slow and slightly painful project, but talking to the project manager earlier this week, he's confirmed that the physical work inside the pump station is now complete and they'll be demobilising, taking their gear away from the site in the coming weeks.
Oh, in the coming weeks, okay.
Just for clarity, there is a separate water main project which is going along Tangere Drive, which is unrelated to the JV. Okay. So they will be working in that area for some time.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Councillor Duncan, then I'll come to Porirua, Kelly.
Yeah, actually, speaking about that Tangere Drive, there's about 2 or 3 houses at the end of that street, And I came past the other day and there's a stop-go man there with absolutely nothing to do, standing there, probably all day, and there's probably one at the other end to actually stop it there as well. I thought, how stupid is that? But that's just an aside. If I can go back to the White House, what Mari Wright was concerned about or wanted to know was there potential for that paper road to be used? And I was sure somebody was going to contact her about that and discuss it with her to say yes or no to it. So was anything with that paper road discussed?
No, I believe that work went on hold with the funding issues, and so it does need to be closed out. So that's, and communications need to be undertaken, so that's something we'll pick up, absolutely.
Okay, and on the Central City wastewater tank, if we can, there's potential for a blowout in the budget. That's unusual. Can I? Hey? Sorry?
So I'm going to allow the person who's got the floor to speak, and if you want to clarify with him, please do so separately. Mike, you still have the floor.
Yep. But what I want to know is, can somebody? I was told that the lizards that were removed from there were put onto Porirua Park. Is that actually what happened, where it caught fire and burnt?
Sorry, David. I might refer this to David, because there was a discussion about the lizards the other day with where they were relocated to.
Yeah, it was raised through a member of the park staff that had been out travelling around and had seen a digger operating in an area that he believed had been the area the lizards had been relocated to. In talking through with the project manager from Wellington Water, we realised, and I confirmed back with Parks, that the area the digger had been in was actually a part of the site of the Bothamley stream, the Bothamley Park sewer main, and that the relocation area for the lizards was a separate area. It is fenced off with what is called a silt fence, but is also lizard-proof as well. So all operators on the site, on the tank site, are very aware of where to go and where not to go.
So I have Porirua Kelly, and then I have Mayor Baker. Is that correct? No, sorry, Councillor Leggett. So Porirua Kelly, if you want to go. In which case, I will sincerely apologise for making you wait, and I'm happy for you to. Porirua Kelly.
Okay, so I've lost my train of thought now, talking about lizards. Actually, go on.
Okay, would you like to take a moment and then come back?
Yes, please.
Councillor Leggett.
Goodness. So, no, I haven't. Page 12, 13. This is the SCADA system review about alarm pages. Can you explain to me how the connection of the Porirua SCADA system to Seaview Wastewater Treatment Plant, and I assume their SCADA system, would improve the plant's alarm pager system? That couldn't be done by doing something else?
Well, the pager systems run via a cellular network. The
SCADA is run.
Well, the cellular network at Porirua, the treatment plant, is a bit ropey, so we route the alarm signals through other plants. It has been Moa Point. Moa Point's SCADA system, PLC system, control system in general is at end of life and due for renewal, and we've had some failures there. So we had an incident whereby alarms weren't received at Moa Point, and therefore the operators weren't advised. That was previous reports. So we looked into whether there might be a better way of routing those communications, and the contractor AFI and Veolia concluded that Seaview would be better. It's more robust system there, and that process is underway to do just that.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I have is on page 13, number 18. Mike already raised it about this generator. I was just interested in terms of, it's like, you know, all these projects turn into Ben-Hur. It's like, so this is a generator. You must know how old it is, how many hours it's done, get a mechanic or somebody who's into generators to assess whether it can still run, and if 300 kVA is enough for the UV plant, then hey presto.
Yes, there's the mechanical reliability and the sizing, which the sizing's fine, but then it would have to be rehoused in a container,
Yep.
and the control hookup
Yeah.
is key next after that.
Okay.
Porirua Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mr Chair. So mine is just a quick question, and it mightn't even be for this committee, but I'll ask it anyway because you'll tell me if it's not. So Tangere Drive, good to hear that it is finishing, even though it's taking a long time. We were told that it was finished. The one beside it, is that you guys as well?
There's a small pump station that serves the local Takapuahia catchment. That's
Yep.
a Porirua City Council asset. I don't believe it's a joint venture asset.
No, is that a Wellington water project, I guess, is what I'm asking. It was just that whatever the project is, I know it's the main pipes and that, but it does look like it's, the depot looks pretty permanent. And is this going to be a permanent depot for whoever is working there? Because, I mean, you know, steel beams on their whare is pretty permanent, and putting down, you know, yeah, nice deck, and it's all been painted and everything, and the road's already been sealed.
I'm going to let Mike answer on behalf of council officers.
So you're talking about the water main upgrade. So yes, that is indeed a Wellington Water Limited job. So not these guys are wastewater guys, but yes, the same. It's Wellington Water Limited. However, I'm pretty sure that's not a permanent structure. I'm pretty sure it's temporary. But I'm happy to come back to you outside of offline.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thanks. It was just I was concerned because that is reserve.
I think it was. I didn't know it was not generally accepted, but I'm happy for officers to give a clarification to your satisfaction as well, Porirua Kelly. Councillor Philo.
Oh, thanks. It was actually around a question I've got on page 14, around the network discharging consenting program, so point 29 and point 30. Just wondered if you could give a bit more clarity here. Are these paragraphs indicating that you're applying for consent for, say, the wet water discharges from pump stations, for wet and it seems like dry as well?
Yes, we are applying for wet weather discharges at the moment. That application's been lodged to authorise those under the RMA, and then a program of works to reduce them will be following.
Okay, so currently there's no consents for those discharges that, say, occurred in the last quarter that we saw in our report.
Correct.
So the intention to apply for consents is to legally be able to have those discharges occur? Is that?
Correct, and then to set out a program of reducing them over time in line with the Natural Resources Plan.
You already kind of record and know how many they have. I'm just wondering why the need for a consent to legalise the polluting, really. I'm just trying to...
In discussions with Greater Wellington Regional Council, they've expressed a strong desire that they're brought under a consenting permits.
So Greater Wellington have said you need to get these pump station discharges consented through them,
Yes.
and then work out a program to reduce it.
Yes. Yeah.
So they'll be overlooking it. Is that the idea? They'll be overseeing and aware of the discharges happening?
Yes, well, they're currently, we report them. So,
Okay.
you know, we try and be transparent about these things, but they're not currently under a consent, resource consent.
I guess I'm still a little lost about why the consent is necessary.
It's just under the RMA.
Your line of questioning may be more fruitful going with Greater Wellington Regional Council as to their rationale as to why the consents have come in. But if there's anyone of the officers from Porirua to the council who want to give any additional commentary, I'm happy for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If it's helpful, the way I like to think about this is it's taken us a long time to get to the situation where we've got a harbour and fresh water that is nothing to be that proud of. So it's going to take us a little while to come out of that. So we are working hard to invest in things like pipes and pump stations so that we can reduce the number of discharges that we have. Now, the regional council is aware of this, and they're watching us like a hawk. So I think that the point is that as part of watching us like a hawk, they're requiring us to have a consent and so with conditions so they can monitor us and measure us properly, whereas previously that wasn't necessarily the case. Yes.
It's also so that council may choose to, so Greater Wellington as the enforcement body may choose to prosecute the council if they are not satisfied that we are meeting our obligations under a consent once operable. Can I also just confirm from officers as well that as part of this process that started some time ago, that engagement with Ngāti Toa's mana whenua with regards to the Awarua or Porirua were involved in the detailed work before going to consent?
Sorry, I can't confirm. I'm not across the detail of what consultation was undertaken.
I'll find out for you, Mr. Chair, and come back.
And please,
I assume so, but I won't leave it in as assumption.
Understand. And please finish it to the remainder of the committee as well, so as to tie up that part of it as well. Any other questions? I do have some, but I'm just going to let you guys have a go first. You guys were really good. You did all the ones nearly all the ones I had, but the one that I wanted to cover off was page 13.20. Draft plans required for the new consent and going to regional council as well as to the working group. Now, I'm just trying to get a sense of what information would be in these types of documents, and if you can give me a kind of a simple commentary of what would be in there, so as I can, because it may not necessarily be appropriate for it to come to this committee to do oversight to see what's being worked on by a working group, but I just want to know what is in there.
In general, they're operational plans, so they are how the plant is operated for just normal discharge operations and for odour management, and they cover things like what processes are followed when certain activities take place and how the plant operates.
My understanding is that that working group may also be able to have discussions about what a future consent or a future beyond the current operable consent of the existing site and what improvements could be made. Would that be accurate?
The working group has the opportunity to review performance of the plant as we report it, and also it has a role in future looking the strategies relating to the plant.
I'm probably going to put you guys on the spot one more time about this. Is there some sense of a workflow or timeframes as to that latter part in regards to the future work and how that committee, starts to work on that nutty stuff? Because it does take some time to get those things moving before you get to even to the more formal parts of the process.
It's hard to state at this stage. The committee hasn't yet met. And so they will do before the end of the financial year is the plan. And the first stage is to review the management plan, the two or the combined management plans. So we would leave it to the committee to assess how they want to take the future state forward.
Okay. I'm going to open for any public debate if anybody wants to use their time for public debate. I don't think there is any though. I think everybody's asked really good partai. In which case, I'm going to then have the motion having been moved and seconded, or I'm going to now go to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? Carried. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again, Jeremy, Blair and Steve, for coming in yet again and speaking to the report. Appreciate your time. Right, moving on to item 7.2, Spicer Landfill Joint Committee Update, October to December 2023. I will move the motion. Do I have a second? Councillor Phelan, thank you very much. I am going to open up for officer comment from David. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple of comments to make additional to the report. The first one, just for the committee's general interest, relates to the police search of the active tip face on the 9th and 10th of February. I had put out a proactive statement around social media, etc., just to let people know something extraordinary was happening. In the event, the weather conditions were a little bit to and fro, and we did get some complaints. So for the committee's information, we had 9 odour complaints on the first day of the search and 6 odour complaints on the second. Greater Wellington did actually attend out in the Tawa neighbourhood and had identified objectionable and offensive odour. However, again, being proactive and letting them know what was about to happen, they haven't come back to us with any sort of infringement, and I'll wait and see if they do that and update the committee next time if that's actually happened. The second thing is just if I can draw your attention to the graph on page 20. This is our monthly refuse tonnage. The graph on the top half of the page. From July 21, when we were looking at this graph, we see that there's quite a lift in what appears to be the average tonnage coming in. We're around the 7,000 tonne per month mark. And we've just been looking at this, if the committee might have noticed it. What we see here is not actually a lift in general waste coming in, it's a lift in clean fill. So when we look at what's coming in through the kiosk, break down the different waste types, that's actually a clean fill increase. That's July, August 2021, which is roughly coincidental when we started hearing from the contractors around the region about how difficult it was to find somewhere to take clean fill. So just to point out, that's quite a reasonably distinct pattern on that graph, and it looks like that's what the cause of that is. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I'll leave that and ask for any comments or questions.
Questions? Representative Allen, then it will be Councillor Duncan.
So just in response to that comment you just made, is there a limit to how much you can take a month? And with this increase in clean fill, does this mean the landfill is going to fill up even more quickly than anticipated?
Through the Chair, so with the clean fill input, that is actually regulated. So the operator won't necessarily accept clean fill if he's short of storage. He'll continue to take it. That was a period where we can see, especially the latter half of 2021, where obviously he's building a stockpile up. So the other question, yes, of course, any tonnage that comes in is adding to the consumption of the overall capacity.
Okay. Just some more questions. With the monitor for the hydrogen sulphide just around the corner from my house, looking at these graphs compared to previous reports, even though it's still well under the guideline limit, it does appear to be increasing. Would you say that's, when you look at last report, last quarter and etc., that, we used to be sitting, if you look at the graph on page 17, we're sitting around 0 and 1, and now we're sitting in December around 3 and 4. Would you agree that that does seem to be picking up more?
Yeah, through the Chair. I would say the rolling average, if there was a rolling average, looks like it might be lifting. The results here are prepared by a scientist working at the company that the monitors come from. And he takes the raw data and produces the reports that we get here. What I think I'd like to do for the committee, and I can see the pattern you're referring to, is to have that environmental scientist commentary on whether this is a trend or whether it's a seasonal pattern of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Following on from that, at the top of page 19, you've said you've installed a second monitor in December. I know this falls outside the reporting period, but are there any figures for January from that boundary monitor, and what do they show?
Not that we've received yet, no.
Okay. And I think I've just got one more. So under your health and safety report, page 23, the second to last item, a sludge bin came in wet and sloppy. Was that sludge turned away? And if not, why not?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
With regards to that request, again, I'm pretty confident that we could have a response sooner than the next meeting. Would that be fair?
That's all from me for now. Thank you.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I was there on the day when the police turned up to do the investigation up there, and I saw these police ladies all dressed in their lovely pristine gear, and I thought, wow, that's not the right stuff to be wearing to go digging through the tip. But good job. I mean, you guys did a good job up there with that. I think you handled it really well, and the early announcement to people was great. That was really good. I only have one question, and that's on page 19, the graph there, and it's the Spicer landfill odour complaints by intensity. But I don't know, is 1 the highest or 6 the highest?
6 is the highest.
Is it?
One is barely noticeable.
Oh, cheers, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Leggett.
No, just a comment, because I think the comment you made about, trying to compare hydrogen sulfide, 4 separate graphs, I mean, you could say, well, we're trying to hide what's happening here, but I know we're not. It would be good if it could all, I don't think you need all the ups and downs, but just trend over, a longer time period. All of those graphs together you could have put as one. You would have been able to see a trend. And the other thing I just wondered was, is there anything that you could do that would show complaints versus the trend of hydrogen sulfide?
Through the chair, yes, that could be worked around.
I don't want to create a whole lot of extra work, but just
Yeah, it could be turned around. Obviously, the data that we have that you see in the hydrogen graphs here, and the data that we've got for the complaints, can coexist on a spreadsheet. It would be an interesting exercise to do, and I'm happy to direct the analyst in my team to take a look at that for the next meeting.
I'm happy with the requirement. I'm always mindful that if we combine the data set, then someone's going to say, well, I'd like to see the data set separately. So I'm just
have both.
You can have both.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to be responsive to committee members to ensure that they have information so that they make an informed decision. So on that basis, I understand you're willing to look into that further. Thank you. Porirua Kelly.
Yeah, I was tossing up whether to leave it to debate or ask it as a question, but I'll ask it as a question. So essentially, this is great that we're reporting on what we are doing. Do we look at doing things differently to achieve reducing our waste and recycling, and do we review that regularly?
I'll let officers respond to that. I'd like to take it myself, but I'll let the officers.
Short answer is yes. There are 2 key pieces of legislation. There's a Waste Minimisation Act, which actually we have requirements on, but we also have the key thing that David and I always focus on is sanitation. So first and foremost, it's really important in this game that we don't ruin people's health, right, or the environment, of course, but first and foremost, it's about sanitation. So yes, we look to minimise waste wherever possible. You'll be aware we've got live projects around organic waste, construction and demolition waste, and actually our curbside recycling needs a bit of attention as well. The one waste that we're most worried about is actually sewage sludge. And as you'll be aware, Wellington City Council is currently going through a $500 million investment in order to reduce sewage sludge. If you don't do something with sewage sludge, it's very difficult to do anything else with a landfill because of the mixing ratios and the issues with disposing of something as nasty and gnarly as sewage sludge. So short answer is yes, all of those things I've just listed are hugely expensive. The truth is our landfill is a really good business. So our David and my challenge is to balance all of those things in the advice that we bring to you. But there are a couple of critical milestones coming up around the future of our landfill that will actually determine which path we go down with respect to waste minimisation.
Thank you. So the reason Oh, okay. The reason why I asked the question is that recently I was in Waitangi on Waitangi Day, which was awesome. I can say that was really awesome. And I had a team of people with me, and I actually had Councillor Filo with me. So when we were driving back, I deliberately took her to Whangarei to show her the Whangarei tip and their recycling and yeah, it doesn't sound like a tourist attraction, but the main reason why I did it is because I've always been really fascinated with how well they run the tip in Whangarei and how they reduce their waste. There's no smell, and it's run as a business. So my question is, when you are reviewing things, I know that councils look at things overseas and what people are doing overseas, but maybe look more like locally at people that are doing things really well. And I'm not saying that for you to do that, but I'm just making a suggestion that it might be a good site visit, because when I was up at the tip just recently, it's a mess with all the recycles everywhere, or lack of it, or lack of places for you to actually dispose of recyclables. So like for instance, the Porirua Whānau Centre, we do food parcels twice a week. So we get a lot of boxes. So we flat pack them and then take them to the recycle bin up there. But we're not allowed to take them there. Because it's seen as a commercial enterprise. So then, it then becomes a cost to a charitable organisation. Whereas in Whangarei, what their city is encouraging is they're encouraging reducing waste, recycling, and they make it easy for everyone to recycle. And the way that it's set up, it's just really simple. So I don't know if you are aware of the Whangarei tip, but I think it's the best in New Zealand. And while it is an unusual sightseeing trip, I can tell you that the team did enjoy it, and there were some lessons to learn.
I appreciate
I don't know
Poe
what
Kelly.
Wellington's doing. They don't do it as well as Whangarei.
I appreciate that I now have an item that I have to go visit Whangarei tips, so thank you for that. The only two things I'd say, just from for a second, seeing this as a councillor around the table, is that coming up into the long-term plan, there are already live issues with regards to improvements to construction and demolition waste and recycling, including curbside recycling as well. There's also, as part of the regional waste minimisation plan, the work plans for each of the individual councils to also play their part in also reducing waste in a number of different ranges, including events management and so forth as well. But for this committee, I'm sure that as we get closer to looking the issue of odour and we start looking at the future use of the landfill space, you'll recall that we had conversations about repurposing some of the footprint of that location to improve recyclables so they can be dropped off more easily. As to the stuff outside the plant, I'm looking forward to you being vociferous as always with regards to the LTP and calling on council to look at alternate and additional measures.
So I guess the key thing, just following up a little bit further, the key thing is what works so well there. It's the people who police it. So the council has got an area for everything. It's not just that you put all your recycles in and then it's all got to be sorted in that. The people do all of that. So, I'm sure that there's cost savings there as well.
Just to tie things off here, and this may serve as a good question, what is the status of the Section 17A review with regards to collection services, and does that incorporate any additional commentary with regards to the provision of services at the landfill itself?
Through the Chair, the 17A review concluded and gave options for essentially the curbside part of the waste activity. With respect to landfill future development is a separate stream of work that's going on at the moment, but the 17A review has given us the proposal for the LTP that you will see coming through.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry, Representative Allen.
Just one around vermin. There was nothing trapped or shot or whatever you do to them in December. I have noticed an increase in gull life. It did coincide with the police operation, so it may be due to that. We had what sounded like a herd of elephants on our roof. Turned out to be 2 seagulls fighting over half a chicken. And we only get that when the landfill's not being well managed. So I know it probably did relate to the police digging. But I've also noticed there does seem to be more seagulls flying around. Do you know if vermin is being regularly contained?
Yeah, so the landfill operator reports to us on a monthly basis. The report here is just each 3 monthly accumulation of what he's told us. And it was noted that the culling of seagulls in particular had dropped off quite dramatically in the last 12 months. So the operator's been issued an instruction last week to continue and to increase the rate at which he's shooting seagulls.
Thank you.
I don't really want to leave pest management as the last thing we talk about on this report. So I do have one specific question, and it is there a risk that because of the unfortunate circumstances requiring the police to go and search that site and the complaints that are clustered around that period of time may impact whether or not our trend lines with regards to complaints and H2S affect our ability to be seen to be solving this problem?
No, when you see the next set of graphs at the next meeting, it's unlikely that you would notice that anything was anything out of the ordinary with respect to that particular 2-day operation.
Okay. Final question. I am sure that it has been a lot of work on curtailing odour at that site location. Have officers got any other work coming up on stream about additional measures to further manage odour?
There are 2 actions still to be followed. One is the use of the air blasters, which I mentioned to the last committee. Unfortunately, the company that is the New Zealand agent for that used at orchards around the country doesn't lease them, only allows you to purchase. So we're looking at that at the moment and whether there might be an orchard that's not using one or 2 for the time being. So still following that. Also looking at installing additional monitors around the site, but talking to a company which has a system that links those monitors to operations, meteorological conditions, complaints and so on, just for a more fine grain of understanding of what's happening when and what might be coming up. Those 2 things, and probably be able to report to the committee on those for the next report. So that's the air dispersal units and the additional on-site monitoring still to come.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to unless there's any other questions, last chance, all good? Okay. So a motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Abstentions? The motion is carried. Well done, everybody, and thank you again, David. Item 7.3, Wastewater Treatment Plant and Spicer Landfill Financial Report, October to December 2023. I will move the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Philo, thank you. Officer comment, David?
Thank you, Chair. I won't add anything to the report. The results unremarkable to the 6-month point, and just ask if there's any questions or comments.
Questions? Councillor Philo.
Cool. A couple of questions, or a few questions. The first one is, can you remind me, please, with regards, this is on the Spicer Landfill budget, with regards to the internal charges and allocations, can you just remind me what are examples of those? What does that make up?
One example might be our Parks Department brings in quite a bit of tonnage, and that's an internal charge. It doesn't necessarily go through the gate. So something is appearing on the books that doesn't look like someone's actually paid to come in, and I'm pretty sure that the sludge that comes in from Wellington Water, for example, is treated in the same way.
Okay. So with the income part, though, what would that be? Or would that be the Wellington Water sludge?
That is what I'm speaking of, yeah.
Income. Okay. So the parks would be a expenditure in the. Okay, cool. Thank you. My other
My
question.
apologies, councillor, just to correct that, the parks would be an income as far as the landfill goes, but an expenditure as far as the parks ledger goes.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. With point 12 there, just talking about those two projects, can you just clarify, please, are the two projects the construction of cell 3A and the resource consent application?
Yes, that's correct. They are the two major projects within my group at the moment. So the consent, probably a little more long running than what we anticipated. Cell 3 to commence fairly shortly, later this year.
So was that 5 million that was budgeted for it? Was it anticipated that those two projects would be completed this year? Was that sort of an
No, the 5 million that had been budgeted for the year was part of the combination of the two. There's still minor work going on with the resource consent, but the cell, which from memory is 14.9 million, so it's spread over a number of years.
Sorry, how much did you just say?
14.9.
Oh, 14.9, okay. So it's really great that there's a net surplus. And my sort of last question is just looking at the expenditure. Can you give a bit of clarity, please, around the contract services and consultants? I did note that there was 207K that was out of budget. Can you give a sort of explain or give some clarity around what happened there?
Yes, the contract services consultants, that's made up of the biggest of them, of course, is the landfill operator themselves. And then we have a number of other expenses regarding consultants, for example, that are working on monthly monitoring, management of the active tip face as we move it around. At this point, we've just not spent as much as we might have spent at this time. We've also had the consultant working quite considerably on those two capital projects as well, where we have probably had them working on something that has distracted them or taken them off work that they might have otherwise been done. We're just a little underspent on consultants there at the moment. The actual contract, sorry,
I read it as overspent, not underspent. So, and that under
my
the
apologies.
expenditure.
Sorry, my apologies. That will be. I'll dig into that for you for the next report and just find out what is in there that's gone over.
Okay. All right. Then, thank you. Yeah.
So just so I'm clear here, the document that is tabled is accurate. Okay. Sorry, I've got Councillor Leggett.
Sorry, just on that point, I have another question, but just on that point, can I ask whoever can answer? You're there, Jim. Can I ask whether any of the work that's been done or has been done now in terms of on Cell 3A, etc., is that capitalised already, or we can't capitalise it until later?
We've still just gone through the procurement stage at the moment. Is that right, David?
We've procured for the professional services for the design work only at this stage. The actual physical construction won't be starting until October at the earliest, which is, I believe, the point at which we're able to begin capitalising.
Okay, so we won't capitalise until then. Up until then, it's still OPEX. Yep. Okay. That was the first question.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
That's work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it's in the WIP.
Yep.
Okay. The other question was on page 29.10. This is the construction and demolition facility, the Ministry for the Environment funding, that 232K. how can you? I just can't remember. Are we going to get any more money from the Ministry for the Environment? And okay, if that's the case, it begs the question, doesn't it? Is there any possibility of a likely change with MFE in terms of funding these sorts of things with the new government? And are we planning for that, or what are we doing?
With respect to the C&D facility, the agreement is signed up, so that funding from the MFE is safe as far as that particular project goes. The previous government, under the previous government, MFE obviously had funding available for certain projects. They were looking for organic waste projects, for example. Change of government, we can't actually say what might happen to that.
No, I just wonder whether
and with
that was
regards to whether we plan ahead for it, again, can't really plan ahead for a funding that we're not sure of. Policy may change.
No, but this one's ring fence, so that was the core of the question. Yeah, good.
Sorry. Any other questions? Going. Okay, I have one question, and it's just more about the reporting and with specific regard to odour control. Obviously, it's an unexpected area where we've had to, take on additional commitments. Can our commentary on the report also just, ponder how best to show that as an ongoing item? Because we should be seen to be demonstrating how committed we are, and one way of showing that is how much we are spending on trying to, as I said before, look at this problem. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Could that be done?
Just, for clarity, the request is actions currently undertaken or have been undertaken or future actions with an understanding of the cost impact of what those would be have been.
Yes, indeed, and specifically with regards to operations, because obviously that has an impact for us as a committee member when it comes to fee setting and so forth.
Yes, we'll put something together for the next report, and perhaps I could suggest if I might be able to share that with the chair beforehand to make sure that we're meeting what you're looking for.
Fair enough. Porirua Kelly?
Are you referring to smell? Odour?
No. I'm saying that obviously money has to be spent that we didn't necessarily budget for with regards to controlling odour, the issues of odour at the landfill right now.
Well, because remember when we asked officers, what's the tool they use to measure it was the nose.
Aye.
So there can't be a lot of expense in a sniff test.
There are still obviously contractors who have been, called upon for, advice around the report and the reporting of the monitoring up there that's currently in place. That's the point I was alluding to.
Yeah. I do have to say though, it is refreshing to see that some common sense old techniques are still being used.
Te kaha o te inu, ne? The strength of one's nose. Any other questions? There are none? Okay. Here we go, peeps. I am going to put the motion now. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? Carried. So, we are now at the end. I want to thank everybody for, sticking around, and those especially online. Well done, you. We will conclude with our karakia whakamutunga. Araha mai. Toru wha. Kia horo te mareno. Kia whakapapa pounamu te moana. He huarahi mā tātou e te rangi nei. Aroha atu. Aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa. Hui e, tae ki e. Kia ora, catch you later.